Hello students, welcome back. So we have already started chordates, and chordates may we have already done the protochordates, then we have done the Gnathame cyclostomes, and today we are going to start the gnathostomes, and in gnathostomes we are going to cover Chondrichthyes, which includes the cartilaginous fish, Osteichthyes, which includes the bony fish. Together they are called as Pisces and Amphibia. So today we are studying actually Pisces, which includes the two fishes, and tetrapoda we are going to start with Amphibia. Okay? So before I do this, as you already know, I have a tendency to first teach you things in a comparative manner. तो पहले मैं आपको comparative manner में बता दूं. You know that the chordates, they comprise of your fish, then they have your amphibia, reptiles, birds and mammals. इस comparative chart में हम आपको इनके maximum characters करा देंगे, ताकि जब हम एक एक करके I start teaching you, the fish, amphibia, reptile, so that will be easy for you because you know most of the gross characters. So I start first with the habitat. I am teaching you all the gnathostomes. All gnathostomes or gnatha group, that means those who have jaws. They include Pisces, Amphibia, Reptile, Aves and Mammals, right? इनका हम एक comparative आपको I'm telling you about their characters so that आगे पढ़ेंगे तो आपको आसान होगा. So let's come first to the habitat. आपको पता है fish aquatic है. Amphibia के नाम से ही पता लगता है they are amphibious, and you know that who are amphibious? Those who live on land but they depend on water for reproduction. तो आपने देखा होगा एम्फीबिया में फ्रॉग्स को, दे लिव ऑन लैंड, बारिश के मौसम में ही पाए जाते हैं. दे लिव ऑन लैंड, बट आप देखेंगे द फ्रॉग्स दे ले देयर एग्स इन द वाटर. In fact, their larva, that is tadpole, that also comes out in the water. फिर वहाँ पे वो metamorphosis होता है. Metamorphosis means there is a big change from the larva to the adult, and then the adult becomes terrestrial once again. So those organisms which are terrestrial but they depend on water for reproduction, they are called as amphibians. And amphibians में आपका amphibia का habitat is amphibians. Now you remember, reptile onwards, they are all terrestrial. Reptile is terrestrial, bird is terrestrial, mammal is terrestrial. अब आप पूछोगे नहीं मैम, I'll tell you, you are little confused. मुझे पता है there is one reptile, that is crocodile. वो तो पानी में रहता है. और आप कह रहे हो नहीं, reptile is a terrestrial animal. So let me tell you one thing. I don't know whether you have noticed this or not. Please do notice that though crocodile lives on water, in water, it does not respire through gills. Aquatic habitat का कैरेक्टर क्या होता है? रेस्पिरेशन थ्रू गिल्स. एक्चुअली आप देखेंगे कि उनमें लंग्स होता है. आपने देखा होगा क्रोकोडाइल ब्रीथ करने के लिए अपना नोज, स्नाउट पानी के बाहर लाता है, एंड देन इट ब्रीथ्स. दैट मींस द गैसेस एक्सचेंज इज नॉट थ्रू द डिसॉल्व्ड ऑक्सीजन, इट इज थ्रू एयर, एंड इन देम द रेस्पिरेटरी ऑर्गन इज लंग्स, नॉट गिल्स. एंड लंग्स पाया जाना एक टेरेस्ट्रियल कैरेक्टर है, क्योंकि एक्वेटिक एनिमल्स में तो गिल्स होता है. इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब ये है बेटा कि एम्फीबियंस एक्चुअली ओरिजिनेट कहाँ किया था? लैंड में. बट लैंड में कंपटीशन से बचने के लिए सम ऑफ देम दे मूव इन वाटर, बट दो दे मूव्ड इन वाटर बट दे स्टिल द कैरेक्टर्स व्हिच दे हैव, दे आर ऑल टेरेस्ट्रियल कैरेक्टर्स. वो तो हमने सिर्फ छुपने के लिए या जगह कंपटीशन से बचने के लिए हम पानी में चले गए. सो प्रेजेंस ऑफ लंग्स and respiration by lungs and not by gills, right? And and also you must have noticed crocodiles पानी में रहते हैं, लेकिन ये अंडे दे रहे, they come to the shore. ये ना जमीन में आते हैं, there they lay the eggs. Now laying the eggs on land, this is again a terrestrial character. That means I just want to tell you that reptiles are terrestrial organisms. Some of them they are found in water, but that was just to avoid competition. But the gross body structure is that of a terrestrial organism. Same is the case with birds. आप बोलोगे नहीं मैम, duck you have not seen. Duck and swan, they live in water, but child, the duck and swan, they live in water but they breathe through lungs. They take atmospheric oxygen, not the dissolved oxygen, and they do not breathe by gills. That means again it is an adaptation, but originally these are terrestrial animals. Similarly, some mammals like whale stays in water but it breathes through lungs. So these characters show. Now let us come to the habitat once again. The habitat of fish, of course, is aquatic. They live in water. It may be freshwater, marine. Amphibians, they live on land but they depend on water for reproduction. And reptiles, birds and mammals, they are true terrestrial animals. They breathe through lungs, right? They lay their eggs on the land. That means they are terrestrial. Going to water was just an adaptation to avoid competition. Now next we will come to endoskeleton. Now when you come to endoskeleton, I told you one thing that in case of non-chordates, आपको याद होगा मैंने बोला था non-chordate में पहली बात तो skeleton होता ही नहीं है, होने से भी exo होता है in some, like in porifera you find spicules, like that you find cuticle in ascal helminths, say you find chitinous exoskeleton in case of arthropoda. जब भी skeleton होगा exo होगा, लेकिन chordates में particularly gnathostomes में which includes Pisces and tetrapodas, इसमें both exoskeleton and endoskeleton पाया जाता है, right? So आप एक एक करके देखें. If we go to endoskeleton, in all of them there is a skeleton, बाकायदा skeleton है which is made up of either bone or cartilage. You know that the skeleton is made up of the vertebral column, the cranium, the ribs, etc. All of them they have endoskeleton. Only thing is in fish, in cartilaginous fish the endoskeleton is cartilaginous, and in bony fish it is actually bony. Amphibia maybe it is mainly bony, and all of us, why I am saying mainly bony, आप बोलोगे नहीं मैम हमारा तो endoskeleton bone का ही बना है, but कहीं कहीं हमारा cartilage है. Like see at the tip of the nose you have cartilage, कान में you have cartilage, so there are cartilage at intervertebral disc. हमारी जो वर्टिब्री है, दो वर्टिब्री, इस दोनों वर्टिब्री के बीच में you find this cartilage, right? So though our endoskeleton is made up of bone, हमारे bones के ही hands, limbs, ribs बने हुए, but at some places cartilage may be present, so we call it as mainly bony, mainly bony, mainly bony, mainly bony. That means cartilage may be present, some इधर उधर थोड़ा बहुत हो सकता है, ठीक है? Now let us come to exoskeleton. एक्सोस्केलेटन जो बाहर में आपका प्रोटेक्टिव कोट पाया जाता है. फिश में यू नो दैट इट इज स्केल्स, ठीक? कोई भी मछली आप देख लो, मछली में ऊपर में स्केल्स होता है, ठीक, फॉर प्रोटेक्शन. नाउ लेट अस कम टू एम्फीबिया. एम्फीबिया में एक्सोस्केलेटन नहीं होता, दे डू नॉट हैव, rather the skin is moist and without any scale. Why? Because you know that amphibia air से moisture absorb करता है. मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया है कि amphibia they have a coating of their skin is moist, and ये हवा से, not moisture sorry, हवा से oxygen it dissolves in on its moist skin. इनमें ना cutaneous respiration भी होता है, ये skin से भी gases exchange करते हैं other than lungs. So obviously अगर ऊपर में scales होगा तो they cannot do gases exchange. अगर हम सोचो ना अपने skin के ऊपर में अभी wooden glove पहन ले, तो do you think my skin will be able to interact with the environment? No. So amphibia may be, मेंढक may be, they do not have any exoskeleton in the form of scales or anything. Rather the skin is moist. Moist होने से क्या होता है आपको बता दें, ऑक्सीजन कभी डायरेक्टली एक्सचेंज नहीं होता. ऑक्सीजन पहले ये मॉइस्ट लेयर, मॉइस्ट मतलब पानी, पानी में ये डिसॉल्व करता है, एंड देन द गैसेस एक्सचेंज टेक्स प्लेस विद द अंडरलाइनिंग ब्लड वेसल्स, राइट? सो इन देम you know that the exoskeleton is absent. Now let us come to reptiles. Reptiles have exoskeleton. I'll give you two examples. You can try any one of them to know. या तो आप ऐसा करो, you go to a zoo and then you'll find a crocodile. Just jump into the crocodile pond, और फिर crocodile को पकड़ के देखो, इतने बड़े बड़े scales, उसको तो scutes बोलते हैं, पाया जाता है. आप बोलोगे मैम आप तो अच्छा बता रहे हो, हम तालाब में चले जाएं क्रोकोडाइल को छूने के लिए, तो क्रोकोडाइल तो हमें खा लेगा, मतलब ये तो आप क्या बोल रहे थे? आई एम गिविंग एन ऑल्टरनेटिव टू फील देयर स्किन. ये बहुत इजी है, हार्मलेस है, कुछ नहीं करना है. अपने घर पे एक छिपकली को पकड़ लो, राइट? जस्ट कैच होल्ड ऑफ अ लिजर्ड and then try to touch the lizard externally. You will feel that dry scales are present on the क्या बोलते हैं, on the skin. So right, so in the comment box let me know which one did you like to try. Did you like to try it with crocodile or the lizard? I have given you two wonderful options, but both of them they will let you know that the reptiles they have scales, but the scale is very dry, horny. ऐसे कांटा जैसा आपको लगेगा if you touch it, right? So they have dry, horny scales. That means fish also have scales, reptiles also have scales. Now let us come to birds. Birds के exoskeleton it's feathers. They give it both warmth and they also help in flight. So it is basically feathers and in legs. Now this is something interesting. मैं पढ़ाऊंगी तो आपको दिखाऊंगी भी. कभी बर्ड के लेग को गौर से देखना बेटा, राइट? आप देखोगे ऐसे वो पर्चिंग करते हैं, राइट? अगेन दिस इज अ स्टेम, ये एक स्टेम है और ये आपका बर्ड का लिम्स है. अगर कभी आप बर्ड का लिम्ब को नोटिस करना, यू कैन सी इट इन थ्रू गूगल ऑल्सो, पीकॉक एंड ऑल बर्ड्स का देखना, आप देखोगे बर्ड के लेग्स में स्केल्स पाया जाता है, ड्राई स्केल्स. सो बर्ड्स में दो द मेजर एक्सोस्केलेटन इज द फेदर, बट लिम्स में उसमें स्केल्स पाया जाता है. एंड यू नो व्हाट डज दैट मीन? इट मीन्स दैट रेप्टाइल्स इवॉल्व्ड इनटू बर्ड्स. मैंने क्या कहा है? वन फाइन डे देयर इज नो मैजिक. We find some connections which actually tell. So you know, dry scales on the body is a reptilian character, and in the birds, in the limbs, foot, particularly नीचे की तरफ, you can find similar dry scales, which shows that birds actually evolved into, reptiles evolved into birds. In mammals, what is our exoskeleton? Our exoskeleton is hair. हमारे बाहर में hair present होता है. So I told you about the exoskeleton. I told you that all chordates, they have exoskeleton, but the name and the character also varies. Now let us come to the body type. This is interesting. In mammals, in gnathostomes, जो हम पढ़ रहे, अभी तो chordate नहीं, gnathostomes पढ़ रहे. The limbs, I told them in all of them it is paired limbs. केवल अग्नाथा में the limbs are not paired, but gnathostomes में the limbs are paired. Now these limbs are in the form of fins in case of fish, and it is in the form of hand and feet in the case of tetrapoda. So here we have two forelimbs and two hind limbs, right? So forelimbs and hind limbs, forelimb and hind limb. ठीक, since in all of them we find forelimb and hind limb, so we call them as tetrapoda, and then it is fins. Now I told you that in all the gnathostomes, they are all gnatha beta, they are all gnathostomes. मैं पढ़ा रही हूँ आपको, ठीक. In all gnathostomes, I told you the appendages are paired, but in case of fish, अगर आप fish को गौर से देखोगे बेटा, yes, the fish has paired fins. See the pelvic fin, this is the pectoral fin, they are paired. But fish में कुछ unpaired fins भी होते हैं, जैसे the caudal fin, the tail fin, it is unpaired. तो यहाँ लिखा है the fins may be paired or unpaired. बाकी सब में the limbs have digits. The limbs have digit. उसमें मैं बता दूँ. तो पहला कौन है? Amphibia. Amphibia के forelimb में 4 digit होता है, and hind limb में 5 digit होता है. Then reptile onward, both forelimb and hind limb, they have 5 digit. So reptile, birds and mammals. I am going to show you when I am going to take detailed lecture on each of one. I will show you with diagrams how it actually happens. Right? So these are, we are going to go for some more characters. Now let us come to some more. Now come to respiration. No dispute about it. Fish may it will be through gills. Amphibia, I told you the larva stays in water. So larva may, that is tadpole में, the respiratory organ is gills, and in adults it is lungs in all of them. आपने देखा होगा bird में I have written lungs with air sacs. Now what is that? Just see this, lungs with air sac क्या है? See this is the lung, ये हमें भी पाया जाता है. This is our lung, ठीक है? And bird में क्या होता है? Since they have to fly, and flying requires a lot of energy, so birds require more oxygen. क्योंकि जितना ज़्यादा ऑक्सीजन होगा उतना ज़्यादा एरोबिक एनर्जी रेस्पिरेशन होगा, उतना ज़्यादा एनर्जी होगा. सो दे रिक्वायर एक्स्ट्रा, miles and kilometers they can keep on flying, so they require, flight requires more energy. So what happens in them, this is your lungs, but what happens, lungs में you have such branches, these are called as air sacs. This increases the surface area of the lungs, right? इससे lungs का surface area बढ़ जाता है, which allows them, longer flights effortlessly. So यही यहाँ पर आपका लिखा है. I'm going to show you each one of them जब मैं आपको individually पढ़ाऊंगी. Now let us come to the next point, that is circulation. I have already told you that circulation may we all have a ventral heart, and I have already told you earlier that heart is 2-chambered in fish, 3 in case of amphibia, incomplete 4 in reptiles, and completely 4-chambered in birds and mammals. अब यहाँ पर आप देखोगे, मैंने एक और term आपको बताया, one is called as poikilotherm and the other is homeotherm. ठीक है, मैंने लिखा है आपका कि fish, amphibia and reptile they are poikilotherms, and उसमें लिखा है they are homeotherms. Now what does that mean? Poikilotherms in simple language means they are cold-blooded. ठीक है, these are cold-blooded animals. And homeotherms in simple language means they are warm-blooded animals. अब आप बोलोगे मैम what is cold-blooded and warm-blooded? Let me tell you. वैसे animals जिनके body का temperature changes with the ambient temperature, they are called as poikilotherms or cold-blooded. That means अगर बाहर का टेम्परेचर 25 डिग्री है, मेरे बॉडी का भी 25 हो जाएगा। बाहर अगर 30 है तो बॉडी का 30 हो जाएगा। बाहर अगर 5 डिग्री है तो बॉडी का 5 हो जाएगा। माई बॉडी टेम्परेचर विल ट्राई टू बी इन यूनिसन। ये ना आपके एनवायरमेंट के साथ मैच करने की कोशिश करता है। वैसे ऑर्गेनिज्म हुज बॉडी टेम्परेचर चेंजेस विद द एम्बिएंट बॉडी टेम्परेचर, एनवायरमेंटल टेम्परेचर, दे आर कॉल्ड एज पोइकिलोथर्म्स। और cold blooded who are warm blooded whose body temperature does not change. You go to Shimla, put a thermometer, your temperature will come to 98.6. You go to Rajasthan in scorching heat, put a thermometer, it will come to 98.6. That means irrespective of any temperature in the outside, my body temperature remains the same. ठीक, these animals are called as poikilotherms or warm blooded. ठीक, so homeotherms, not poikilotherms बेटा, homeotherms are warm blooded. That means fish, amphibia, reptiles, they are cold blooded, and in birds and mammals they are warm blooded. मैं इसका पूरा लॉजिक तो नहीं बताऊंगी, पर एक चीज बता दूं याद करने का तरीका। Those animals in which the heart is completely four chambered, ठीक है, completely four chambered means there is a clear cut distinction between the pure and impure blood. देखो, जिसका हार्ट फोर चेम्बर्ड होता है, this side of the heart, you know that it receives your impure blood, and this side of the blood it actually has the pure blood. ठीक, so there is a clear cut distinction, mixing नहीं होता pure and impure blood का, there is no mixing. This is possible only when the heart is completely four chambered. वैसे animals warm blooded होते हैं, right? जिनके हार्ट में थोड़ी भी मिक्सिंग होती है, जैसे देखो आप, if you look at an amphibian heart, there are two auricles and one ventricle. This side of the heart receives impure blood, this receives pure, but when it will come here, both of them will mix. See, there will be a mixing because there is no partition. वैसे animals जिसमें partition complete नहीं है and there is a mixing of pure and impure blood, they are cold blooded. इसका logic क्या है, कभी आपको अलग से ऐसी वीडियो बनाकर do you know करके बना देंगे. Right now I am not going to take it further. Just आपको याद करने में हेल्प कर दे, वैसे animals जिनका heart, you know, it's not completely four chambered, there's no clear cut distinction between the pure and the impure blood, वो सारे cold blooded होते हैं, their body temperature changes with the ambient temperature, जबकि जिनके heart में clear cut chamberization है, distinction है between the pure and impure, there's no mixing, they are all homeotherms or warm blooded. Now, digestion में एक interesting चीज मैंने यहाँ पर लिखी है, I will require some time to explain you that. What is that? Digestion में fish has cloaca, amphibia has cloaca, reptile has cloaca, birds have cloaca, only mammals do not have cloaca, they have anus. अब आप बोलेंगे मैम what is this cloaca and what is this anus? I'll explain you right now. Just let me complete the last point once first, then I will say that. In fish, the fertilization is both internal and external. Why did I say that? In case of cartilaginous fish, the fertilization is internal. But in case of bony fish, the fertilization is external. Right? तो यहाँ पे तो मैंने केवल fish लिख रखा है. That means Pisces लिख रखा है. ठीक? So Pisces में the fertilization may be external or internal, and they may be ovoviviparous or viviparous. Right? So they may be ovoviviparous or viviparous. इसका मतलब क्या है? Let me tell you. And they may also be oviparous. Oviparous यहाँ पर मेरा छूट गया है. ठीक है? Now what is oviparous? Those animals which lay eggs. They are called as oviparous. Just let us see it once again. Those animals which lay eggs. हमने ये दो words आपको बताए. Oviparous are egg laying animals. ठीक है? They lay eggs. जैसे आपने देखा है birds they lay eggs. You have seen reptiles, छिपकली भी अंडे देती है. You have seen crocodile lays eggs. So those organisms which lay eggs and eggs से बच्चे बाहर आते हैं. You know, they pack the egg with nutrition. The child consumes that nutrition, then hatches the eggs and then come out. They are called as oviparous. Those animals which give birth to young ones, direct बच्चों को जन्म देते हैं, अंडे नहीं देते. ठीक? They are called as viviparous. And you know that viviparous का P-A-R-O-U-S, viviparous का सबसे अच्छा example कौन है? You can know that it is mammals. Only mammals they give birth to young ones, right? So यहाँ पर लिखा है, you know, they are, पहले तो fertilization देख लो. Fish में some fish have internal, some have external. Amphibia में it is external fertilization. हम दिखा देंगे. The female frog lays the egg. The male frog, you know, supports on the back of the female and lays the sperm almost at the same place on the water. वो क्या है रुको मैं भी बताती हूँ. पहले ओविपेरस विविपेरस कर लो, तब हम इस पे आएंगे वापस, ठीक है। सो फिश में आई हैव रिटन, नाउ देयर इज अनदर वर्ड दैट आई हैव रिटन, यू मस्ट हैव सीन, इट इज ओवोविविपेरस। नाउ व्हाट डज ओवोविविपेरस मीन? नाउ लिसन, दोज ओवोविविपेरस, आपको मतलब समझ में आ गया, दे आर पार्टली ओविपेरस एंड पार्टली विविपेरस। लेकिन इसमें होता क्या है, मैं बाद में व्हेन आई टीच यू ऑल ऑफ देम इंडिविजुअली, आई एम गोइंग टू शो यू ब्यूटीफुल डायग्राम्स, photos to explain them. Those animals which lay eggs, they are called as oviparous. So I told you bony fishes are oviparous. Bony fish जो होती है वो oviparous होती है. What is viviparous? Those who give birth to young ones. And ovoviviparous में क्या होता है? They form eggs, but they do not lay the eggs outside. The female makes eggs, but she does not lay the eggs. She keeps the egg inside her body. बच्चे को nourishment mother से नहीं मिल रहा है, egg से मिल रहा है. तो क्योंकि बच्चे को नरिशमेंट एग से मिल रहा है तो वो ओविपेरस हो गया, पर द एग का डेवलपमेंट इज विद इन द मदर, सो दैट इज सॉर्ट ऑफ विविपेरस, बिकॉज व्हेन द एग्स हैच दे विल हैव, तो आपको क्या लगेगा कि बच्चा मदर की बॉडी से बाहर आ रहा है, द एग्स आर हैचिंग एंड साइमल्टेनियसली दे आर बीइंग रिलीज, तो देखने वाले को क्या लगेगा, द चाइल्ड इज बीइंग डिलीवर्ड बाय द मदर, सो इट्स विविपेरस, बट द चाइल्ड का डेवलपमेंट टुक प्लेस विद इन द एग, सो इट इज ओविपेरस. सो सिंस the egg development takes place within the mother, we call it as ovoviviparous. तो मैं आपको बता दूं, फिश में दो तरह के फिश है, the cartilaginous fish are either viviparous or ovoviviparous, जबकि the bony fish is actually oviparous, they lay eggs. So इसीलिए मैंने यहाँ पर कहा है fertilization आपके cartilaginous fish में it will be internal, bony fish में it will be external. Cartilaginous fish में it will be ovoviviparous or viviparous, bony fish में it will is going to be oviparous. उसके बाद amphibia, they are oviparous and the fertilization is external. मैंने आपको बताया इसलिए मैं यहाँ दिखा दूँ, बाकी मैं amphibia पढ़ाऊंगी तो बताऊंगी. Just a hypothetical diagram I'm just trying to show you. Say just consider that this is a frog. I'm drawing a very bad diagram. I hope you will understand. Just to make you understand, say this is your frog. ठीक है? Now say this is the female frog and she lays the eggs over here. ठीक है? Fertilization is external. Fertilization takes place in water. So she lays the eggs here in the water. What will happen? The male frog will ascend over her. इसके ऊपर and it will lay its sperms. ये अपने sperms यहाँ पर lay करेगा. So that the chances of fertilization increases, right? So they try that they lay their gametes almost at the same place in the water, but you can see both of them, they are laying their gametes in water. So obviously here fertilization is what? It is external, but they lay eggs, right? So they are called as oviparous. Reptiles, birds and mammals में fertilization is internal. ठीक है? The male gamete is transferred into the body of the female and they lay eggs. You know that birds lay eggs. Your reptiles lay eggs. You know that birds lay eggs. It is only mammals which directly give birth to young ones. That means they are called as viviparous. Right? So with this diagram, almost all the characters of your क्या बोल रहे हैं, the chordates, they have been taken on a glance. तो आपको पता चल गया. Only one thing that is left is about cloaca. क्लोका समझाने से पहले I want you to observe कि क्लोका सारे ग्नाथोस्टोम से पाया जाता है, इंक्लूडिंग पाइसीज, एम्फीबिया, रेप्टाइल, एव्स और की बर्ड्स. ओनली मैमल्स में आपका क्लोका नहीं है. There I used a word called as anus. So what is the difference? What is cloaca and why is it not found in mammals? Now you have to see this. मैं पहले mammals दिखा रही हूँ और mammals में भी पहले humans को मैंने दिखाया है. Humans में there are three major systems जो बॉडी के बाहर कम्युनिकेट करते हैं थ्रू एन अपर्चर. One of them is the digestive system. Now you can see that this digestive system, it communicates to the outside through an aperture called as anus. Right? So this is the first system जो बॉडी के बाहर कम्युनिकेट करता है एक इंडिपेंडेंट ओपनिंग से, और इसके इंडिपेंडेंट ओपनिंग का नाम है anus. The second is the excretory system. You can see that. In excretory system, you can see that this is a pair of kidney. The kidney opens into ureters. And the ureter opens into a sac-like structure called as urinary bladder. और ये urinary bladder बाहर खुलता है. You know, there is this tube-like structure called as urethra. ठीक? And this urethra opens to the outside while an aperture. This aperture is called as your urinary aperture. Right? This is your urinary aperture, and both the apertures are independent of each other. ये anus एक अलग aperture है, urinary aperture अलग है. यही नहीं. There is a third system I will show you. that is a reproductive system, and this reproductive system in case of females at least ये open करता है to the outside by a separate aperture. Male में the reproductive system ultimately opens into urethra. जो किडनी का यूरेथ्रा था ना वहीं पर ओपन करता है, एंड यूरेथ्रा इज द कॉमन ओपनिंग बोथ फॉर यूरिन एज वेल एज गैमेट्स, सो वी कॉल इट एज यूरिनोजेनाइटल सिस्टम. बिकॉज एज यू कैन सी हियर, मैं आपको दिखाती हूँ, ये हमारा टेस्टिस है. टेस्टिस opens into epididymis. This will open into vas deferens, and the vas deferens of both the sides they will open into this tube called as urethra, जिससे actually यूरिन भी बाहर जाता है. ठीक, so male में there are two apertures. There is one aperture for the digestive system called as anus, and there is one aperture called as the urinary aperture, and this urinary aperture is for both your reproductive system and as well as your excretory system. ठीक है, लेकिन in case of females there are three apertures. Digestive system का aperture अलग है, we call it as anus. Excretory system का aperture अलग है, we call it as your urinary aperture, and reproductive system का अलग है. ठीक है, यानी कि I just want to say that there are three major organ system of your body which needs to communicate to the outside. In case of mammals, each one of them communicates through its own independent aperture. ठीक है, so the aperture for the digestive system is called as anus. In contrast to that, in case of in case of fish, amphibia, reptiles and birds, see, all of them they open into a common common structure called as cloaca, and एक single aperture से ये तीनों बाहर communicate करते हैं. Just I'll show you with the help of this diagram. मैं यहाँ पर cloaca थोड़ा सा बड़ा बना दूँ. I'll just make it little big. This is suppose my cloaca to make you understand. आपके तीनों सिस्टम इंडिपेंडेंट अपर्चर से बाहर नहीं खुलते, ये कॉमन सैटेलाइट स्ट्रक्चर में खुलते हैं. इस कॉमन सैटेलाइट स्ट्रक्चर को हम कहते हैं क्लोका. राइट, नाउ आई जस्ट शो यू. सी दिस, यहाँ पर लिखा है इंटेस्टाइन. दैट मींस दिस वाज सपोज्ड टू बी योर डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम. ठीक है, यहाँ देखो मैंने डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम बनाया. दिस इज योर ईसोफेगस, क्रॉप, गिजर्ड. दिस इज द इंटेस्टाइन, एंड इंटेस्टाइन अल्टीमेटली सी इट ओपन्स इनटू अ स्ट्रक्चर कॉल्ड एज क्लोका. It opens into a structure called as cloaca. Similarly, look at this. ये आपका मेल में मैंने दिखा रही हूँ. This is your reproductive system. This is the testis. The testis will open into say vas deferens, and the vas deferens also does not communicate to the outside independently. This will also open into cloaca. ठीक, यानी कि ये अगर हम digestive system जो यहाँ बनाए, if I place it here, ठीक है, मैंने इतना सा पोर्शन यहाँ प्लेस किया है. So the digestive system opens into cloaca. The reproductive system opens into cloaca. Now look at this, the excretory system. The excretory system will अच्छा ये तो female reproductive system दिखा रहा है. This is the female reproductive system. That means it shows the ovary, oviduct, uterus. Even in female, the reproductive system actually opens into cloaca. तो यहाँ मैंने आपको दो सिस्टम दिखाया. Now look at the third system. The third system, see here it is the kidney. This kidney will again open into ureter, and this ureter, see, will also open where? Into the cloaca. That means you can see here the reproductive system, the excretory system and the digestive system, they do not have independent opening to the outside, rather they open into a sac-like structure called as cloaca, and there is a common aperture for all the three. This aperture is called as the cloacal aperture. ये common aperture को हम कहते हैं cloacal aperture. That means you must understand what is cloaca. In case of fish, amphibia, reptiles and birds, the three major system, that is the digestive system, that is the excretory system, that is the reproductive system, these three systems, they open into a common sac-like structure. This common sac-like structure is called as cloaca, and this cloaca communicates to the outside via common aperture called as cloacal aperture. ठीक, तो obviously अगर तीन सिस्टम एक कॉमन सैक में खुलेंगे एंड एक कॉमन अपर्चर से खुलेंगे बाहर, तो दिस इज नॉट सो एडवांस्ड. तो मैमल्स में आते आते हमने क्या किया, वी गेव अ सेपरेट ओपनिंग टू ईच वन ऑफ देम कि यू विल ओपन लाइक दिस, यू विल ओपन लाइक दिस, यू विल ओपन लाइक दिस, राइट. सो दिस इज हाउ द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ क्लोका एक्चुअली केम अप. ठीक, सो देयर इज अनदर डायग्राम आई वांट टू शो यू, एंड दिस डायग्राम इज फ्रॉम योर एनसीईआरटी. फ्रॉग, क्योंकि फ्रॉग में भी तो क्लोका होता है ना. तो यहाँ पर देखो, ये frog का digestive system दिखा रहा है. See, the digestive system is opening into a common sac. This is actually not communicating to the outside independently. वो anus से बाहर नहीं खुल रहा. ये किस में खुल रहा है? It is opening into cloaca. Right? Now look at this. This is your in female. In female, the female reproductive system, it is opening into cloaca, and the female excretory system is opening into the cloaca, and it is this cloaca through the cloacal aperture it communicates to the outside. Now look at here in males. Males, maybe this is your reproductive system, it will open into cloaca. This is the excretory system, it will open into cloaca. The digestive system will open into the cloaca. The three major systems, they do not have an independent opening, rather they open into a sac-like structure called as cloaca, which communicates to the outside via cloacal aperture. So cloaca is present in Pisces, Amphibia, reptile, aves. Only in mammals there is a separate opening for urine, and there is a separate opening for the digestive waste called as anus. In all others there is a common sac-like structure, they all open it there, and it is through the cloacal aperture things are released to the outside. So this is what I wanted to tell you. So see, this is the Pisces, this is Amphibia, this is reptiles, this is aves, and that is mammals. Right? So with that we have had a comparative account. Now it will not take us much time, so we will move from one. First we will take up the Pisces or the fish character. So with that we have had a very good discussion on the comparative, a comparative discussion on the major characters amongst the gnathostomes. In my next video I am going to take up fish. Yes, this is one complete lecture, but just to make the lecture a little more handy, I am just breaking it into 3 parts. So in next part it will be all about Pisces, right? So just join me back in my next video. Do join in.